Hello, hello. If this is your first time, welcome. And if this isn't, welcome back. I'll be your host, Bag of Jacks. This is going to be a bit of a doozy, so fasten your seatbelts and let's get into it. While I'm sure this video is going to be uploaded late into November, while hopefully not December, back at the start of October, I began a monthing challenge, if you can follow all that. If you aren't already in the know, many artists accept month-long challenges in which the idea is to make a piece of art every day using a prompt list. Instead of following the ever-popular Inktober's or Goretobers, I followed the 31-day Cringetober challenge created by Austin the Surfer Dude here on YouTube for the second year. I'm still getting used to recording speed paints, so I didn't actually record like half of the days that, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a video with those speed paints or like a tour style, so between both of those factors, there will be a mix of both styles. For days that I don't have a speed paint to show off, I'll try to keep my commentary short, but without further ado. Day 1 in its simplest form was a warm-up. Before I really got stuck into Cringetober, I was in a serious creative rut. I felt uninspired and unmotivated. It was kind of what I needed to get the old creative juices flowing. I redrew this screenshot from that odd Danganronpa OVA episode they did where it was in Nagito's point of view, where it was his ideal world or whatever. And if you're trying to avoid spoilers for that game/anime, I promise this screenshot's really not important to the plot, even if it really did actually happen in the show. That being said, I think I left a lot to be desired when it comes to the final result, but the art of the 30-day challenge is an endurance test, not a sprint, so I kept moving. Day 2 was tsundere, a prompt I was all too familiar with. I love male tsunderes, your Edward Elrics, your Inuyashas, and of course your Kyo fruit baskets. And apparently Bakugo according to Google, but I'm pretty sure he's just an asshole. I didn't have as many characters from different fandoms as I had wanted to at the start of this challenge. In fact, last year I had, in an attempt to motivate myself, limited myself only to your Turn to Die fan art whenever possible, minus a couple of days. But this year I wanted to draw a bigger variety, which is why on day 2 I did as wild of a pull as Kyo-Soma from Fruits Baskets, which is, in all honesty, not an anime I know a lot about, but from like the 30-ish episodes I've seen of the reboot, I have enjoyed it. That and he was the only tsundere boy I could think of where I actually liked the romance the guy was pursuing. Which begins our running trilogy across the month, which gets pretty ironic considering the contents of said AU and the prompt's wording. Nonetheless, I forged ahead with my Soul Eater ripoff that I have already put too much fucking lore and energy into. I had to post a master doc onto my Tumblr. Oh my god, follow my Tumblr, please guys, please, 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 please. Which I'll probably just link in the description below for anyone that wants more details, since I'll probably just give enough to understand the piece. There's not much to say about this one, other than the fact that I literally didn't do the prompt, but I still drew some props, which is still prop practice, so I'm not really sweating it. I have hit protagonist Sarah Doan as a Meister, though I should preface that I know so little about the rules or world building of Soul Eater that I'm just borrowing the ability for some people, not demons because it's unnecessary for this AU's sake, to transform into a weapon that resembles them, though maybe some could stay as demons because I haven't really worked out what folks in Asanara would really be up to. On the left, Sarah wields Joe Tazuna as a quirky baseball bat with colorful stickers and various wrappings reminiscent of his eclectic style, with a big star at the end that would probably hurt pretty bad to be hit with. On the right would be Sarah much later down the line wielding Renmaru Kageyama, who would be an understated double-edged dagger with cotton wrappings over the grip. Not much to say on this one. I drew my persona a couple of times in some of my favorite clothes at the time. If I'm still remembering correctly, all 4 of these I made in one sitting, so some of them are a little simpler or sketchier, which You'd think drawing 4 full colored illustrations would burn a guy out, but I think it actually was the thing that got me invested in Cringetober this year. While I wasn't super crazy about the first couple of days, I was super into 3 and 4, and I was passionate about my new AU, and I always have fun drawing my silly little guy of a persona, so I felt extremely hyped, if anything, to keep going, oddly enough. Which was another prompt that was from last year. So to go with last year's Animal Crossing Jijinkas of Bam, Flora, and Agnes, I added Eunice and Elmer to the crew. This was another prompt that I wasn't super into, one of those so limitless it made me have choice paralysis, which is how I ended up doing the same thing as last year. Plus, adding these two rounded out the cast of my OG Islanders. Honestly, I thought it was funny how certain I was with how I wanted Eunice to identify, but I wasn't with Elmer. Meanwhile, I knew what race I wanted Elmer to be and was kind of with Eunice. Just that she had to be from somewhere kind of cold because she's dressed so like snuggly winter style, so I guess I settled on Canada. And while I know it looks like I was trying to draw that last Dandadan frame, it was not my intention. Like, I hadn't even seen the anime until October/early November. I just thought it was a really funny coincidence. I don't really like how this one turned out. I tried some scary posing and foreshortening, and it didn't really land. But what matters is that I tried, I guess. Just don't look at it upside down. Day 7 was Crossover, Return of Me, the AU monster. This is just another weapon design, this time for Shin and Kana. Kana's a little garden trowel type thing, if you know you know. Shin's a taser, not a single use one, just like a regular one that has a lock for some reason. I don't know how realistic that is, I just wanted to incorporate his necklace, to be honest. I like how it turned out though, which was neat. Day 8 was Dead Meme. Give something I could whip up quick enough to keep things moving, so I skipped it and kept moving. But for your troubles, a bunny Dory, a meme only relevant to the Return to Dad community circa 2023. I didn't play many games as a kid that weren't licensed shovelware or like a generic pet care sim, so I had to go a little further into my gaming childhood, and the first game I played off Steam was in middle school, Doki Doki Literature Club. And the fact that I shouldn't have played that game in middle school while I was severely depressed, that's not lost on me. And my girl was Sayori, so I drew Sayori with a slight redesign, for fun. I also drew Monica in my sketchbook when I was trying to decide what to do for this prompt, so here, just for you. Day 10 was ship dynamic, and I actively chose to not fully follow the prompt because I didn't want to draw those boring blank figures, so I basically just drew Cation with a bit of a with like the ship dynamics that they remind me of, and I made quite a few. Day 11 was 5+1 things. This was another prompt I skipped because I couldn't think of something to do that wouldn't involve drawing a full comic, and I needed to stay on track. Sorry, I think this is the only one I didn't even end up going back and doing, but... And for this prompt, I would have dipped my toes into the multiverse of Mikus, or the Mikuverse. And at the time, I was really into Class of 09, so I drew a little 2010 Scene Queen Miku for my soul, in that classic scene art style. Even though I could have gone a little harder, I wanted to lean a little more on the simpler side for the designs, and it seems, based on the references I was using, that the scene art style seems to lean on the side of simplicity. Who doesn't love a good gender bend? I know I do, which is why I literally had already made a KG gender bend, whom is just oh so mother. We also have Beta Alice here and Shin in the background as a half joke, but I also feel like if Shin was a cis girl, he wouldn't look that different, if at all, maybe just some longer hair. Honestly, gender bending Shin kind of broke my brain. I kept turning the idea around in my brain, but I felt like I was just going in circles, so I decided to focus on what I had already designed. I had actually drawn this prompt like a week after the 14th, largely because I couldn't find a quote that I really liked. Like, I had given up on the prompt altogether until I was scrolling, like, about 10 days later, and the Tumblr gods gave me an answer. We have our first Sushin of the month, gang. I don't have too much to say about this drawing. I think it turned out really cute. I liked making everything in black and white. I thought it was really fun. I did let myself have fun with the pattern on their scarves, since that's something I've always thought about trying but never did. Day 15 was animation meme, and maybe I'll make something later to make up for not doing this day, but I've never really done a proper animation meme, and I was not confident at the time that I could whip something up like that in a day. But if I somehow change my mind last second before I finish editing this, maybe I'll insert a clip at the end with a link to the post. After watching a few other people's Cringetober tours, I'm realizing I completely misread/misinterpreted the prompt. Like, I would say it still fits the prompt, but I feel like most people went for deeper cuts, like things about their physical selves. I had assumed the prompt was to draw fan art for some kind of interest you'd been given like shit for liking, and I'm pretty sure there was a point I was bullied for being into My Little Pony by the time I was in middle school, but In all honesty, whatever I actually was bullied, people were just cruel almost without reason. I'm pretty lucky that I had basically only ever experienced bullying a handful of times in my life. Oh, I also forgot to mention that this is my pony Sona, which I actually redesigned like last year for Cringetober, but this year I gave them a little background to live in. Day 17 was free to use base. On a base that was free to use and looked like fun, and the best part is, first speed paint I have to share. But also, I don't have the full one because I forgot to record at the beginning, so we're basically starting at liner. And I don't know why I did not draw their scarves, but Midori still has polka dots on his tie. Honestly, it makes the ugliest fucking tie I've ever seen in my life, but slay. Honestly, I feel kind of whatever about this one. Like, it's alright, but I feel kind of like neutral toward it. Nothing super groundbreaking. I hope you can't hear my dog barking, but this is day 18, Fandom AU. You already know where this one's going. From front to left, we have Kyutaro, who would wield Kai. Even though the more I'm thinking about it now, Kai makes more sense as a Meister. I don't know, let me know in the comments, just food for thought. Either way, I really like the look of Kai's knife. It's just like a cooking knife, but like spooky, to be real, but I was kind of not feeling it with this drawing, so they're kind of sloppy in general. In the center, we have a Shin with Alice. It looks literally like a clown circus prop, and I kind of love it. Shin closes one eye because he doesn't know better, Lamau. Sarah has Gin as a slingshot, because what else would Gin really be? He's just a little guy. This is also the last time I did anything for this AU. I kind of want to sort designs for everyone, but that may be for another time, maybe even another video if you're interested. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Day 19 was alternative fashion, and guys, I cooked. I was cooking with gas on this one, and I wish I recorded it so badly. Anyway, grieving that blunder, I kind of wasn't super into the prompt since it's kind of bland on its own. I had two intentions with this drawing. I wanted to draw Shin oh so grungy, and I wanted Midori in one of those big long skirts because I think it suits him. That and that piece of clothing just kind of screams alt in my mind. I had fun with the skin tones and made Shin Simpson fucking yellow. I had so many PNGs to the background, and the layers were a wreck, but most importantly, shit looks rad as hell. This is another repeat prompt from last year, I believe, but either way, I drew Miley last year, so I redrew it for fun. I actually quite like both a lot in their own ways, but I think I like this year's one a little bit more than I actually bothered to look at a reference for her this year. This was another prompt I needed to get a little creative with. I thought it would be fun to actually put together a closet cosplay, but I was so into the drawing daily thing that I'd rather just do that. I redrew a character that I had closet cosplayed before, but wearing the outfit I put together, and yes, these are real cosplays, which you could go find on my TikTok if you really care, but here are some screenshots just for the funsies. Candy Girl was another repeat prompt, but instead of doing a redraw of something I did last year, I made a sequel. Kind of. Like I used Shin instead of Midori, but a similar background with the same color for the guts. I don't know, I had a grander ideas with this one. I feel like it turned out a little bit plain, weirdly enough, though. I've been watching a bit of Bob's Burgers. If I didn't draw BoJack fan art, I knew it'd be the Belchers. I'm only a couple seasons in, but I always found the fan art of the people made of these characters just as charming as the ones in canon. I don't know if I really captured the same level of charm. Honestly, I kinda hate how my Bob turned out, but I gave it my best. Day 24 was niche interest, and for my niche interest, God, that's hard for me to say, niche interest, we've got the indie video game darling Yuppie Psycho. Or is it Yuppie? Let me check.
Yuppie.
I don't know. Apparently it's Yuppie. Yuppie Psycho, the game I literally have not finished playing because I'm asked at two kinds of games, survival and puzzle. Guess what Yuppie is? Unfortunately, the game also has three forms of my personal kryptonite: out-of-pocket characters, a fun mystery, and of course, a boy failure. And in my lucky case, this one happens to be the protagonist of this game. Brian Mother Pasternak. It's the man, the myth, the legend, the Yuppie Psycho himself, the baby girl. As to not spoil the game, but also, like I mentioned, I haven't finished it, so I don't know how it ends anyway. I won't go too deep into the actual contents of the game, but it's almost like that one Rachel Draws This game, Elevator Hitch, if they actually, made it out of the elevator. You run around playing as Brian, trying to unravel the mysteries of the company that he only recently was hired at. You know, tale as old as time, except the corruption isn't because of money laundering assholes at the top, it's because of witchcraft. Either way, wish me luck with eventually finishing this beast of a game, and oh my god, play Yuppie Psycho, it's so much fun, just play it, play it, play it. Day 25 was Gacha Life, and I was a little too old to be proper into this game, but that doesn't mean I never actually used it. Back when Gacha Life was fairly new, and I didn't have the ability to a full lineup of characters from scratch super well, I basically used it the same way Pika is used today. And it wasn't the only app I used for that purpose back then. Ironically, I actually would rather go and put pen and paper to the idea myself instead of using a digital paper doll. But putting all that aside, I actually managed to track down the original screenshots from the characters back from probably like 2019 or something. So here they are. These are OCs for a story that I don't really work on very often. They were like secondary characters to the main three characters. They were all supposed to be witches with familiars. These are actually those familiars in human forms. For some reason in a weirdly distinctly video gamey setting. And I can't elaborate on what that means, but it was. It had a name at some point in time, but I can't remember it for my life, so I haven't seen it noted anywhere. So yeah. Unlike the main three characters, which I actually have redesigned a few times, while they don't seem to have as much going for a story, they're in a way that I kind of wish that these lads were, at least to me. Probably need to draw them at least twice to give them a proper shot of that. So on the left we got the super proper traditional borderline cutthroat character who's in animal forms a raven, the familiar of this gal who's called Cersei. In the center is the familiar of the main character of the story who's called Pandora. At a point, I want to change it though, since there isn't supposed to be a Greek mythos theme. Honestly, I might need to go looking to figure out what I renamed her to. But her familiar was supposed to be a fiery orange tabby boy who's a bit selfish and with his own goals in mind. Picture the vibes or progression of like Mushu from Mulan. But grows to appreciate their found family, even if he feels like he's constantly being nagged. I feel like his name may have been Ronnie or Rory even at some point. Guys, I don't leave. I don't know. Leave name suggestions and comments. I'm so bad at naming characters. Finally, we have a blue-coated rat non-binary. I don't know if I'll keep them that way, but the character's always been non-binary from like conception, so I don't know about doing away with it. Though I'm also considering just swapping the identities of the Raven character for more of a been around for thousands of years and gender has no meaning kind of vibe. It's ironic considering the rat has always been my favorite out of the three, but they never had much of a personality outside it, being timid but bright. But that was kind of all they had going. Oh, and they were the familiar for the resident trans mask character. That was definitely not a self-insert, because before I even knew how I would begin to identify, not even a year later. Day 26 was Your Name or Mary Sue. And while I didn't go with the traditional or really a Mary Sue, I really feel like the main character of Persona does dip into both of those genres. First, you literally get to rename them, so already Joker is a Your Name character in a more literal sense, given you gave him your name and not a name like, for say, Johnny Anime. And as much as I adore the game and the character, and the more I think about it, bro is pretty much a textbook Mary Sue. Just look at it on paper. He basically has no flaws. He's the most powerful member of the group in that he can take the masks of shadows as his own, gaining their power. Like, anytime something goes wrong, it's never because of him, it's in spite. And maybe I'll have a different opinion of him by the time I actually complete the game. Sue me, I'm literally 110 hours in at this rate, I think. Or watch the anime. Just don't take this as me not enjoying it. I feel like these types of characters are surprisingly common in video games anyway. He's taking down a camera and being oh so darn cute about it. I had to think long and hard about just who I wanted to draw fan art of. Considering most YouTubers just look more or less like average people, I was considering drawing a fan art for someone that uses like an avatar, but I ended up deciding against it in favor of drawing one of my favorite essay-length YouTube. But if you're in the same space of YouTube as my algorithm of Y2K nostalgia, you'll definitely be familiar with the name of Izzy. Or Izzy's. Izzy. Honestly. I've always been really inspired by their fits or makeup looks, so this fan art was a bit of a long time coming. Either way, I had a fun time redrawing this post from their Instagram. And even more excitingly, get a look at this! I'm famous, Mom! If you can't tell, this is the fan art that I drew. It got featured in their most recent video. I'm very excited about it still. Day 28 was mascot horror, and I was both really excited for this one but also really not excited, largely because I was really hyped for the idea of designing my own concept for a mascot horror style story, but I also drew this one basically as a warm-up. First thing I drew the day, and after thinking about the prompt for a few of them, I really didn't have any new ideas. Everything I thought of felt like it was too far out of the bounds to be still considered a mascot horror. or would be in general kind of boring. And while I don't really feel like what I ended up with is much of an example of mascot horror, I still think the concept is fun. Plus, I wanted an excuse to draw the Halloween OCs I made like 2 years ago, both designed after the 2 different tropes of serial killers in Halloween movies. Here's a little headshot of the pair here. While I know there's no real way to tell which of the pair is in the costume, it's meant to be the one on the left, Taz. Taz is based on those teenage slasher films. Your Ghostface is Carrie, your Jennifer's body. This won't be the last time I plan on yapping about Jennifer's body, so put that in your back pocket. But anyway, the idea is half vibes, half plagiarizing FNAF, in which Taz goes undercover, maybe on Halloween night, at a party or something, probably to kill the guy his ex-girlfriend got with after dumping him, probably, I don't know, bro's just really petty, just like the embodiment of a nightmare ex from hell. Day 19 was experimental makeup. Did I say 19? Day 29 was experimental makeup, which is another really easy prompt to the point that I wasn't looking forward to it. Another prompt that technically would have been even easier if I was doing the prompts the intended way, but I'm not. I don't know, maybe next year if there's another list in this series with a similar mixed media feel, I'd consider doing it the way it's intended. But anyway, I made another AU. Whoopsie! It's Band AU meets Undercover Cop AU. Oh my god. I had thumbnailed their piece. Oh my god. Why is this grammar all wrong? I had thumbnailed the piece the night before, so I had a plan for my composition. And while I think I could have done better with the perspective, otherwise, I really like this piece. I also really went and Lord vomited all over my sketchbook because I was so riddled with ideas for this AU. If you aren't able to follow what looks like the writings of a madman, I'll give you the baseline. KG, while investigating, somehow stumbles ass backwards into auditions for this band that he and basically no one else has ever heard of in their life. Upon catching a look at the keyboardist, honestly, it's kind of just a placeholder because I don't really see Shin realistically playing an instrument, but he needs to be a part of the band for the AU. He realizes that he may have just found what he was looking for, so in order to press onward with his mission, he works his ass off at the auditions, even if his only real experience with music was grade school show choir. Honestly, I think the whole idea could make for a fun little fanfic, but I literally haven't written fanfiction in years, so I don't even know how I'd go about it. But if you guys have more thoughts on the matter, I'd love to yap either more about this AU, or just to bounce ideas off of in the comments. Either way, this is meant to be KG getting all dolled up by Alice while giving Shin a flirty look, because of course he gets closer to apprehending Shin / finding proof of his crime, but he also just thinks he's kind of cute. I feel like it would be similar on both ends to an extent. Like, Shin can tell KG knows something and probably even suspect he's undercover at the beginning, but after a while of working and performing together, he probably just thinks he's overly paranoid. Besides, they did need someone to replace Rekko on lead. It was supernatural / monster. Final prompt. Ah! But anyway, Jennifer's body. See, I told you we'd circle back to it. And it's another AU. This one's not actually much of an AU since it's basically just dropping Shin and Midori into Jennifer's body universe, or Midori's body, as I was calling it, with Midori taking Jennifer's place and Shin taking Needy's. And I went for this whole thing because Jennifer and Needy's dynamic reminded me of Shin and Sue's, or at least that's how I imagined their dynamic before Midori's death. I'm doing air quotes. That and holy shit can I see Midori patronizingly, if that's a word, calling Shin needy and like pretending it's some cute kind of pet name. That and Needy's whole turnaround at the end is also very Shin coded. Good for him. I love when he turns into a bad bitch. Unfortunately, I was a little bit too pleased with my parallels until oops, I got fucking sad again. I need to watch the movie again in general since it's been maybe 2 years since I last saw it. So I was mostly going off the information I found on screenshots and memory. For some reason I didn't bother reading the wiki, and I apparently don't plan to start. But I also might do some screen cap redraws for fun after I do rewatch that movie. Let me know if you'd like a video on something like that. But either way, I made a fun little collage of cool little iconic moments from the movie, and I quite like how they turned out, even if it's probably not the biggest, most magical bang of an ending. And that was my Cringetober. I hope you enjoyed this video in all its sporadic glory. I had a lot of fun working on Cringetober this year. Probably the one thing keeping me sane for the first month of this off season. Either way, thank you so much for sticking around till the end. If you're here still, clearly there's something I'm doing here that you're enjoying, so don't be a stranger. Subscribe so that you can continue to see whatever video I put up next. Alright, I'm gonna go now. Love you all so much. Bye-bye! That was gross. Hit protagonist Sarah Chadowan. Oh my god. We've hit shit. We have hit fuck.